order the meeting of the Capital Outlay Committee for Wednesday, December 10th at 11:03. And on the line is Michelle Gallucci, Scott Norum, and in person is Rich Larios, Ann Tucker, Martha Donovan, Tony Schiavi. And I think Paul Doan is in another meeting, is going to join us later. I did notice we do have a guest who's called in, so I just want to make sure that everyone knows that if we're videotaping this meeting, and if anybody else would like to videotape, they need to identify that now to the chair. Hearing none. I wanted to, if I can, just go back to last week's meeting. Somebody from the public reached out to me and provided me with a history of the Arborough House. This is not an item for discussion. I just want to say this publicly. I didn't want anybody to think that we were being disrespectful or unappreciative of the work that the volunteers did 10 years ago in painting the Arborough House. And if that discussion about the painting should have been shut down by me, I apologize for not doing it. It really didn't have any, in my opinion, any, I'm going to say merit in our discussion, because where I thought we should go with the Arborough House was, what is the building being used for? If it's not going to be used for office space, because that's not appropriate, we're going to spend money at some point. Should we have a discussion about the building before we spend money on it? And that's where I think the focus should be headed going forward. I mean, we're all volunteers. We understand how important it is for everybody to volunteer. Whatever happened 10 years ago related to how that got decided that the volunteers would paint it, we don't need to readdress that. I just want to say thank you to all the volunteers who did do that. It was a big job. Painting a Victorian's not an easy thing to do. And I'm going to leave it there. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes from December 2nd?
Make a motion.
Rich motions. Second. Ann seconds. All in favor? Michelle?
Aye.
Scott?
I don't know whether I should abstain because I left in the middle of the meeting, but other than that, it looks good to me
Okay.
for the time I was there.
We're going to count you as an aye.
Aye.
Ann? Aye. And I'm an aye. So
Aye.
it's 5-0. Before we get started on the capital plan, Tony, were there any changes that you made based on our discussions last week? I'm going to admit I didn't have time to look at it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just some additional items on the funding page. So if you pull up the funding page, that was the only changes I think that were made from.
Are those the ones?
Who did we meet with last time?
The school, there was.
Oh, yeah, all right, I'll go through that. But on the funding page, under other funding sources, you'll see that I highlighted some additional numbers and made sure the notes printed out at the bottom. So the first one related to the community center roof replacement. I noted the funding source being the sinking fund, which we talked about that last week. 60,000 is highlighted. That comes through the MRSD assessment. And then the 22.5 for police vehicles and 168,000 down below are coming from repurposed capital articles from DPW.
Remind me on the MRSD, what's it?
Monroe Regional School District.
Thank you. So the one that's the sinking fund is the DPW.
Right.
The sinking, yeah, it's under facilities, right, for the community center roof replacement. That's the funding source for that is going to be withdrawn from the sinking fund.
Oh, okay, I put it in the wrong place. Okay.
Just want to make sure it was clear when we say other,
Yes.
where the other is actually coming from.
Okay. And it looks like the school made some changes.
Yeah, so I added under schools.
It looks like for their elementary roof replacement, planning and design.
Yes, that was the change.
Did Mike McMillan get back about the 1,115,000? Was that what that was?
He was going to give me a better number, but I never got a better number.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I I can't really explain that one, but what that 115, 1,115,000 was. Okay. So the way that the agenda works, we're gonna just talk about the change to the capital plan from last year. Obviously, I need to update it for that one change in the school, which I will do before it goes to the select board. But this was the worksheet that I had presented last year to the committee, or to the school, to the board. And it really is just outlining what the changes are between last year's plan and this year's plan. And of course, the majority of the changes are when you delete one year and add another year, and that frankly doesn't mean anything, right? It is just part of the process. So that's about $45 million that came off of the total request or the total capital plan, and most of that last year was the 3A of the sewer. So the real meat is in the years FY27 to FY30, which is about 5.3 million that got added to the capital plan in those years. And then I broke it out between deletions, additions, and then things that changed, whether price, timing, and/or it could be multiples, and the scope of the project. And the biggest changes, and shouldn't be a surprise, are the additions, and those additions have come from, in my opinion, and I'm going to calculate this, but new and relatively new town department heads who have come in and looked at their departments differently than maybe their predecessors did and reprioritized. The only one that, and I don't remember the reason for this, maybe somebody can remind me, the fire and engine, the 1.4 million wasn't on a previous plan, and it's now showing up on the plan. I can't remember why that was added. And I might ask if I could talk to the chief about
Sure.
that before
Yeah,
we get to
absolutely.
the
Yep.
meeting. Would you mind that? Okay.
At 1.4, right?
Yeah, I just can't, I'm sure he explained it, and I know we asked it, and I'm gonna be honest, I can't remember why. While there was a lot of activity in the price and timing category, and the biggest one being Saquatucket, the net changes were only less than $1 million all in. So, not to say that they don't matter, but they just didn't really net out to any significant changes. So this is what I would present to the select board and the finance committee at the meeting. If anybody has comments, I'm happy to accept comments. If anybody thinks there's a better way to do this. Yes, Scott?
So I was looking at the line for dredging under new, and I think that that's just a presentation change, right, Tommy? Not as if it's a new project.
Which one?
The 2 million for
Well, the
dredge,
harbor is-
the 2 million for dredging.
Dredging is new to the capital plan.
Correct.
So
It was taken out of the
I
budget.
would
Yeah.
like to explain it as new.
No, it might be worth a footnote. I don't know. It's not as if it's brand new. It's just a presentation change, I believe.
Right, so maybe we
I
can put it at the end of dredging in parentheses, you know,
Yeah, I can
move.
put a note there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The significant increase in price, right?
A little bit, I think it was 400 last year. Well, yeah, the significant increase in prices, the cost per cubic yard has
Right,
gone up
that was the-
significantly.
yeah.
Plus, the state isn't covering
And the
as much
state-
And the
of this,
state,
right?
the
So
state part of that
becoming more
program.
of a town
Right, so there were
cost
two
than it
parts,
is.
with the cost, and then it was removal of the state funds, right?
Correct, yeah. Or ending of that program.
It's just ended outright. Wow.
My understanding, yeah.
Wow, okay. Okay, so if I don't have any other items on the changes, I'll move forward to approving all the items in the capital plan. I'm gonna ask this question, I may be not allowed to ask this question. Just for ease,
Yeah.
could we set it up so that the same person approves the project and the same person seconds it for Judith, or am I not allowed to do that?
Should I say that again?
So we're gonna have to go through and vote on all of these,
Yeah.
right? And just for ease for Judith, could we set it up so the same person would put the motion forward and second, those would be the same people every
That's
time?
fine, that's fine.
And I would ask that if anybody would volunteer to do it, that they wouldn't have an issue with that, or we could stop and change it, but it would just be easier for Judith, taking notes, if we know the person who made the motion and then seconded it was the same every time.
Yeah, and you can do it by, since we have if you choose, Madam Chair, to, like, for the police department, right, the motion could be to approve the capital items listed under the police department as presented. You know, in other words, you don't have to read each specific
Yeah.
one.
I can do that, and I just want to do it in more detail for the fiscal year, and then we can just approve
Okay.
the whole capital plan unless somebody has a specific item that they want to discuss. Is that fair?
Just, you spent a lot of time on this sheet on the differences,
Yeah,
okay? Are you giving them this?
in the
Okay.
select board.
So, if I look at this and I look at 27, the capital plan should be 7663, 500,
Yeah,
okay? And again, this is the first time I'm seeing this sheet. Are you proving the 7663 at all on this sheet?
yes.
How do you prove it?
Well, no, I'm proving the difference between what we asked for last year, the 21.8 million,
Yeah,
and what we asked for this year of 7.7 million. So I'm approving the difference. Because what happens is every meeting, the question is, well, what changed? And this is just reflecting the changes between last year and this year. And that is because there are people on the board who believe that you pick up the plan and you move it over and nothing changes. And that is not the case.
okay, so just, if something is in parentheses, which means it's negative,
Right.
does that mean it did not appear last year, or that those totals?
Well, so, for example, in that first section, those are all the things that were deleted from the plan. $467,000 was deleted from the plan. In the case of the Allen Harbor jet,
So last year's plan,
Mhm.
those 4 items were actually listed in 27, but in
Yes.
fact, in 27, they do not exist
they didn't, in this plan, yes.
in this plan. And the next additions, 27 to 30, what you're saying is all these positive numbers are positive to the 27 plan, but not the 26.
Correct, they're new to the plan.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead,
Couple of questions, if I might. I apologize, I was having to present something at
Oh,
the
yeah, I should
Brooks
say
Academy
public.
Commission next door here, so I'm sorry for arriving late. But I appreciate the work done here on this, is excellent. I had a couple of questions. So the monies that you show being deducted from 27, those 4 items, they've been deducted from 27, but simply pushed into 28. Is that
No, they've been just taken off the plan, so, for example.
entirely?
The police cruiser, right? They-
Okay. So these don't appear, the electronic records, they just delayed that or something, or?
But for that year,
Right.
right, so we pulled that off.
Right, but the reason for that was?
That they had.
They got their own.
They're running ahead.
Funding.
That's right, they got
They were probably
excess.
getting a slower pace going on the project, and they had adequate funding. And in some cases, I think Sarah found some grants to cover some of the expenses. So we said, let's take those off for this year, and if she needs to add them on in a future year, she can.
Correct. We're looking at the burn rate, we're trying not to tie up money, because she
Right.
still has quite a bit of
Yeah.
money that hasn't been used.
And the Channel 18 45 got Xed from this year with.
Anything under 50, we didn't put on the
Right.
plan
Okay.
for the.
Yeah, their budget, Paul, is, they don't really have capital items, and their budget is covered by what Comcast gives them.
PEG account.
So if they needed a capital, like, let's say they needed $100,000 project, they would have to come to us and add that project in, but they don't have any.
Okay, great. So those aren't simply things tucked in further along in a different year.
No.
Second question I had was, to the outset, I'd kind of, and this is absolutely spectacular. let me applaud the town administrator here, I almost called it the public, but the town administrator for this effort here, both the chairman with her work and with the general's work here on this. But at the beginning, when he presented this as the funding sources, I had kind of asked, out of total ignorance for the most part, to sort of have a better understanding of these different sources. Is it possible that you could just, for my purposes and maybe anyone else, just give a broad, not a brief explanation of what this really represents?
Sure. Well, certainly we know what free cash is, right?
Right.
So, general
By
debt,
the way, has that been known to
Not
the
yet.
news? Okay.
Not yet.
Still out, okay. I know what free cash is.
Yes. So general debt, I could actually call it non-excluded debt, right? So that's, I'll say a general borrowing, right, not excluded from Proposition 2.5. You have enterprise debt, which comes from the enterprise fund, which we have two, water and wastewater. You have excluded debt, which we know what that is. The waterways fund, so there are two funds within the harbor that John Harker talked about, 1621 and 1626, that are also a funding source. Enterprise fund retained earnings, that's the equivalent of their free cash. Okay, you'll hear sometimes in the schools, they call it excess and deficiency, so we have different terms, but it's essentially what represents free cash within an enterprise fund, so.
Excuse me, but just the enterprise funds, one exists with the waterways people, and one exists with the schools?
No, enterprise funds are water, the water department.
Water.
And wastewater,
Okay.
sewer.
And so we're talking about those same funds here, the excess funds.
Yeah, so the enterprise funds retained earning are essentially our enterprise funds free cash, if you will. Available funds could be something that came from a stabilization fund, right? Because those are available funds or parked somewhere, they exist. One of the thoughts I have, we established a capital stabilization fund years ago, and they attempted to fund it, but I don't know why they did it this way, but they were trying to fund it with a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion to fund it, and it got turned down.
So in other words, take out some debt, put that money in an account.
That's the way I read it.
Take it out and spend it over time.
I guess, I don't know. So my thought is, since we have it, I was thinking of creating a but we have one, to potentially put some money into it over time that could be used to pay non-excluded capital debt service perhaps, or just to save up money for some future, purchase.
Did I hear so you have it?
We have a capital stabilization fund, but there's no money in it.
I just have to get that clear, okay.
Yeah.
No money.
Yeah, I just got the information yesterday. I mean, I could tell you when it was established. It was quite some time ago.
So, what do you think about an effort to put something in there?
Well, you're right. Well, that's what that's what I'm looking
The
at.
challenge, Paul, is what's the source?
Right.
Where do
So-
you find the funds?
It was created in 2006, and it was called the Capital Replacement Stabilization Fund. Well, I can forward the information to you if you
Yeah.
want. 2012, it was passed for change of purpose, and it was called I think just the Replacement Stabilization Fund
We changed the name in 2012.
in 2012.
Then what
And then in 2013, they attempted to fund it, and the source would take effect to exempt from the limitations on total taxes imposed by Master General Law, Chapter 59, basically Proposition 2.5, the amount required to pay for the expenditure, and it was estimated at $100,000. So the Finance Committee voted, I think, a indefinite postponement. It said vote required, 2/3 majority did not pass. So anyway, so I'm gonna look into it, and I think there's value in having a capital stabilization fund.
Which you've said from the very beginning.
Yeah, so maybe we're gonna actually change the name back, because if we create it for capital, we ought to, I think they were trying to give themselves a little bit of wiggle room on what they use the funds for, but So we'll see how that goes. But those are potentially what we call available funds. And then other funding sources, you can see down in the bottom,
Right.
in the notes, some of the, just so we can identify what those other funding sources are. So you can see I'm using some repurposed, money from old articles, in the amount of,
168?
yeah, I think the total will be 190 and change, and then 485 from the infamous sinking fund, that we have, and has about 1.4 or 1.5 million in it, I think. That's from the sale of land.
Any idea on the free cash?
No, we're still waiting. Again, you know, my prior thing, I was all, you know, we got our paperwork in early October, and I'm thinking, oh, we're gonna get an October free cash number. And then it dawned on me, in the other two communities, which we got it very early, but we had fall town meetings. And so unfortunately, DOR, because this is the time of year, they're not just doing free cash, but they're doing all the recap sheets, so towns can issue their tax bills by the end of December. And so we end up in the, like, third tier. So first tier is for those towns that have fall town meetings. Second tier are towns that are in the recap process, which is basically everybody. And then third is, you know, everybody else.
Note
And
to self, we need to
so
start
we're
doing that
expecting,
fall meeting.
yeah, we're not expecting now to get our free cash until January again, because we ended up, even though all our paperwork is in, we had to work through a few accounting issues created by, I think, some of the turnover that existed downstairs. So we've been in a little bit of a,
Catch
I'll
up,
call it a food fight,
yeah.
you know, flat scissors with DOR and trying to explain some of this stuff. So it was a little scary initially on what position they were taking. But anyways, I think right now we're looking to get it in January. But, you know, that's
Would you,
okay, because I think generally, once you kind of agree that all the questions have been answered, you can kind of anticipate what the certification number is gonna look like. So, you know, we're looking at probably around 4 million.
So you're comfortable that the number that you've used for free cash
Oh, absolutely.
is below what you think
For
is
sure.
the number that would be approved, so you're not worried about it impacting sort of this plan?
Correct. And remember, there's other things we use free cash for, so.
Right, that's what
Yeah.
okay,
So yes, I'm very comfortable,
okay.
And Madam
assuming
Chair,
that they certify where we expect them to.
Yeah.
This is solid.
my last question was just of curiosity, but I don't know from last year or the prior years when I've had the privilege of serving on this august body, but I'm just curious. When I look at the amount of money we're spending, roughly $7.5 million in this fiscal year on the capital plan, and we've got 2.5 million is from free cash, or roughly a third of that total. And then enterprise debt represents about 14%, and excluded debt represents about 20 a quarter, or 25, 26%. I'm just curious, are those percentages of the cost? In other words, the budget of what we're planning to spend is X number. Is it normally the case that a third of X is free cash generally, and is 25% of the budget being paid for by excluded debt? Are those normal? Are they particularly attractive, at all concerning, or whatever? Is there any way of measuring that?
Is it in line with the?
Well, yeah, I know, there's no general I mean, in terms of, you know, general guidance for capital plans, there's no general guidance related to that, because every town looks at it individually based on
Yeah.
their financial ability and sources of funds that they would have. I would say, generally speaking, you're gonna see all the same categories being used to some extent, but I don't think we apply a mathematical formula to that. Certainly, if you don't have to borrow money and things like that, usually long-term items are things you're gonna see in the excluded debt that have long-term lives to them. But again, some towns, you know, the pay-as-you-go capital, I'll call it, which are with free cash and other available funds, make up the bulk of it. But again, you have to look at it on a case-by-case and year-over-year basis. I don't have enough history on Harwich to know if those distributions
I
are
would say
normal.
My experience, just my experience in the last couple of years was the prior town administrator did more of the pay-as-you-go with free cash. So he figured out, this is how, and I'm maybe putting, this may not be true, but I got the impression that he figured out roughly how much free cash, and then he tried to fit as much of the projects into free cash, because that's the only source other than debt. And the debt was saved for more things like the sewer projects, so the really big projects. Even some of the ambulances were in free cash. You know, there wasn't a
What about,
policy that said, oh, if it has a useful life of X, it's automatically excluded debt or something.
Yeah, it should never be automatic.
Right.
So remember, I'm balancing, right, so we're gonna start to see, and this factors into it too, right? And the select board is, and the finance committee, both are interested in this, is what I foresee moving forward is we're gonna see more normal free cash numbers. That has not been the case
Correct.
looking back when we're seeing 6 million, I think one year it might have been 8 million years ago, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's an extraordinary amount that you would look at and go, that's not normal, why did that happen? Because, you know, we obviously have to use our available revenue estimates to fund general operating government, schools, healthcare, all these things that are going up. So we're analyzing the operating budget from the ground up, more or less, this time around, right? So what I expect is we're gonna see more normal free cash numbers, which means we're gonna have to come up with again, as we evaluate the needs for all these capital items, is we're gonna have to think about the distribution of that and think strategically and smart about that, which to me is why we may park some money in a stabilization fund and things like that,
that was
looking
exactly
forward.
where I was going, because what I was thinking was, let's assume that this 22.7 million is normally a very conservative estimate, and maybe what we really would expect on a continuing basis is, let's say, 3.5 million or 4 million or something like that is a more realistic number. What about the idea of saying a town meeting article, which would, and I'm not sure what free cash would be needed after we're done with the budgeting process. Maybe there's a need to have something available quickly, but what about recommending that we send it into this available funds, this stabilization fund or whatever, as a capital outlay committee town meeting proposal?
To put money into the
Money.
Well, that's what I'm
and
working
take
on.
it- Okay,
Right, so that's what so when we get the free cash number and I look at what other things we need to fund with free cash, is what do we have left over that we potentially can put into the capital stabilization fund?
let us offer at a town meeting.
Well, I need to know the number. Well, we'll put it on there as a joint article. I mean, if you guys wanna, there's no pride in authorship, Paul, I don't, yeah.
Understood, but it gives a little visibility to our.
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that everybody understands it's not free cash, right? It's money that was in the budget that we're all paying for as taxpayers, right? It's already built into our taxes.
Half of it is. The other half comes from revenues over estimates, but, right.
Right, but it just,
Or part of
you know,
it.
On a
there's no, like, if we could sell a lot of property and put that money in there, then that's free cash, right? But,
Thinking,
And I would
Yeah,
say,
same
moving forward, those are the kind of things that Martha just meant, that we need to work on, right? Because and I'm looking at a lot of different things, right? I'm looking at delinquent property taxes, I'm looking at what's our collection rates, I'm looking at, right, now I only have a short time left, but, you know, hopefully in the handoff, in the notes, but we need to capture and show the taxpayers and the residents of town that we are looking under every rock, every tree, every leaf to go, where can we capture right? Additional funds to support the important work and the needs of the town, many of which end up on plans like this and others, and not always looking at borrowing or looking at whatever. And so that's why we're combing through all the old articles to find out, look, I mean, these things that are latent, at some point, you gotta give it up. And
We're not trying to create any more latent items, that's to the point of.
and that's the other thing, right, yeah, because all we're doing is adding to the backlog, and, what you end up finding a lot of times is then our numbers are no good, because as we know, things go up.
Right.
And so you're planning on doing a project, if you don't get to it or look for bids 2 or 3 years later, and the next thing you know, you don't have enough money, and we're stalled, and now that available funds that could have funded something else that we know about, that we may have pushed off, is now lost, right? So we just have to be,
Very
more
vigilant.
responsive and
Yeah.
thoughtful about how we're doing some of this.
Balance.
I don't want to,
Yeah.
I don't know if in prior, not the last TA, but maybe the one before, there were maybe less money spent on infrastructure and maintaining infrastructure, and so then the next person comes in and it's more of a priority because things are broken and they need to be replaced. It's kind of like you've got to figure out what your priorities are and figure out how to pay for them, but it's really a fine balance in
Yeah.
that.
well, I don't want to tell a lot of war stories, but I'll tell one. And that is,
And then we're going to move
by
on to.
searching out this stuff, there's tremendous resources out there that I think need to be captured, and we spend so much time on the immediate and no time on the things that are less tangible but are important. And when I had the privilege of being the chair of the Cemetery Commission, for example, we did a survey of the cemetery bounds of various cemeteries in the town and came up probably with, I would say, 8,000 added burial plots that can be sold by the town and for financial gain to the general fund that were generally being used as overflow from neighbors' property.
Yeah,
And suddenly we put up fences and they said, well, what's all of this about? And they said, well, we're just reclaiming what was the vital and appropriate original property of the cemetery. Now, in the same light, if we go out and find these other sources, so I think in our idle time,
well, and I think that's been part of the problem,
February to
Paul,
whatever,
is that we've had a lot of turnover, and so when you come in, you're looking at the immediate, right? And
Right.
then to get to the, would love to have and nice and we have time to look at, it takes a while. And so, we have elected officials on the select board, so the priorities change. We have people changing, whether it's finance director or town administrators, and so that creates a challenge, I'm gonna say.
you know,
Okay,
Let-
so
yeah.
let's go to the vote. Will you be my, read the motion and would you be my second?
Yes.
Will you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna go through fiscal year 27, and we're gonna do it by department. If somebody has,
Are we doing it, okay, first sheet?
we're gonna do
all
the
way
budget
through. Yeah,
first,
got it.
and then we'll do the plan later. If somebody has a specific, issue or is not in agreement with a particular item, then just say so when we get to the department. How's that? And we'll do them individually. Okay, so let's start with the police. The police in fiscal year 27 are looking for 2 cruisers and dispatch radio IT upgrades for a total of $418,000. Can I have a motion to approve the police department's fiscal year 27 request at $418,000?
I make a motion that we approve $418,000 for the police.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
just a question, sorry, but just for my edification here. On this copy I've got, replace 3, it's really replace
It's
2.
2 in that fiscal year
that-
27.
yeah, so we should
It's
change 3 to 2.
every other year.
No, because it's 3 in all the other,
Other years.
you're on a different page. You want to look at the
Showing us what
overall
sheet
plan.
we're on.
Oh,
I'm on the capital outlay
says 3.
plan, fiscal
Yeah, 'cause
years
it's gonna- this is 2, but
2027
that's
through
3.
2031 draft.
We leave it at 3.
Okay.
I can put a note in if you want on that line, 2 for 27.
27.
Okay, so, Michelle, are you okay with
Aye.
that? Scott?
Aye.
Scott said aye. Rich is an aye.
And I.
Paul?
Aye.
Martha, aye. So that's 5-0. Okay, for the fire department, their total request for fiscal year 2027 is $877,500. They're looking for an ambulance and 4 EKG monitor defibrillators. Can I have a motion to accept?
Make a motion to allocate $877,500 to the fire department.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Michelle?
Aye.
Scott? Scott's an aye. He's on mute.
You're
but
on
that's
mute,
okay.
Scott.
You're on mute.
Aye.
Rich? Aye. And
Aye.
Paul and me, 5-0. All right. Department of Natural Resources is looking for $80,000 to replace their truck. Rich, do we want to make a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we allocate $80,000 to the Department of Natural Resources to buy a truck.
Second.
All in favor, any discussion? All in favor? Michelle?
Aye.
Scott? Scott's an aye.
Rich, aye.
And I.
And I.
An aye, 5-0. Okay. For the Harwich Elementary School, they're looking to replace what's an RTU? It's a,
Ready to use,
I don't know.
Rooftop unit.
Rooftop unit, thank you, Paul, and a
Yeah.
dehumidification system for $60,000. Rich?
I make a motion to allocate $60,000 for a rooftop unit
Yes.
for the library and a dehumidification system for six.
second it.
Any discussion? Michelle?
Aye.
Scott? Aye.
Rich, aye.
And I.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so 5-0. Okay. For the DPW, they are looking for $1,495,000, which includes road maintenance at $700,000, a one-ton dump truck at $130,000, a different version of a one-ton dump truck at $130,000, a Mack tractor at $200,000, a hook lift refuse packer truck, that's a mouthful, $200,000, construction and demo trailer for $135,000. So can I have a motion on,
I make a motion that all that equipment listed, for a total of $1,495,000 be approved.
second, any discussion? Okay,
Yes, Madam Chair.
yes,
I know you've been saying 5-0, but shouldn't it be 6-0?
say that, sorry,
Are we 6 or 5?
6.
oh, you're right, we're 6-0, sorry, you're right, on all of those. I'm thinking we're 5 people, we're 6, I'm not counting myself.
Primary numbers are
Yeah, I used to be good with numbers, but my mind's going. Okay.
So I vote aye.
Scott, aye.
Rich, aye.
And I.
Paul?
Aye.
Martha, aye. 6-0. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, the harbor master is asking for $1,370,000. He is looking for dredging costs of $500,000 to replace a Ford Explorer at $80,000. The Herring River boat ramp replacement at $300,000. He's going to replace 2 boats in the Saquatucket Harbor with 1 boat for $425,000, and for the Long Pond boat at $65,000.
I make a motion for the harbor master for $1,370,000 be approved.
And,
Second.
okay, any discussion?
Question.
Yes.
I believe this 500,000 for the dredging is the full cost with the not allowing for the potential for the state to come forward with any matching dredging money. Is that
Yeah, they understand the dredging program is gone.
But
Yeah,
is
you were
it
there
dead,
when
or
the
is it
discussion-
just in limbo?
No, I think my understanding is that it's expired, that it's not,
We're
it's
not
gone.
getting any help with dredging, and the cost per ton of dredging is
Cubic
gone up.
yard.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it were to be activated here,
Well, so the nice way about this being in an article, if that were to happen by some miracle, the money still stays in that article for future dredging. One of the things with dredging is, you know, you don't really
Continue.
ever know the true
Right.
cost. They'll come out and map it and estimate it's 30,000 cubic yards, but when they actually do it, they measure what they actually took. And so, you know, that price is a little variable. So that's why I say in an article, money can roll from year to year, because you may be doing a big dredging project, could cost you $1 million, right? So,
okay.
All right,
On discussion,
yep.
just want this clarification. I sat through the presentation, but $425,000 for the boat has not been here before, correct?
Correct, not in my time. We have not, I mean, these boats are 2010 and 2020, 2014, so they're older boats. We have not replaced any boats.
But before, in the last harbor master did not indicate this was
Correct, this is a new item.
this is a new item. As you said, we get new people and then they new items. That was the one that was kind of the shock factor to me, that came out of nowhere a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what I heard from the harbor master and the fire chief is that they're using the boat differently. So they're using it to do water rescues, and they need a bigger boat, you know, Jaws, to support the people who are on those boats, so that they can do all of that sort of training and water rescue if they ever have to do. And they have.
correct. And this boat, the new boat will be much more capable, right? So one of the boats, he doesn't even use it, he can't use it for what he wanted because it's not safe. And I don't know if it was 3 people, he could, you know, with,
It's just the surprise that all of a sudden the boat isn't safe from one year to the next.
Yeah, news-
That's the, you know, all of a sudden.
Right, and that may just be one harbor master versus another feeling the level of safety, you know, they're using their best judgment.
yeah, it's not the boat itself perhaps, it's the mission of the boat is not adequate for what they need to be able to do, particularly for on-water response and rescue. So, yeah, I mean, like I say, some of these, you get a new set of eyes, different experience, you know, John coming from the Coast Guard and all of that's got a much,
But our new harbor master also came from the Coast Guard. It's
That's
just
what I
when
mean.
something that big comes through and all of a sudden it's different.
Yeah.
That was why I wanted to have a
Sure.
discussion. If everybody's fine with it,
If
I'm
you're not, if
okay.
you're not, you can vote against it,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and I'll bring that forward to the select board to say that one of our members just wasn't comfortable with it. There's no problem with that at all.
No, I just wanted to get a
Yeah.
fuller discussion and.
Look, if it,
The
you know,
half a million
the way I
dollars.
look at it, if it wasn't this year, it's gonna be another year out there, right? Like, if these boats are fairly old, you know, they're over 10 years old, and I'm sure they take a lot of abuse out there in the harbor, so.
No, I'm
At some
satisfied.
point, we're gonna, and replacing one, 2 for 1 doesn't seem so bad, I guess.
We always hope.
Yeah.
No, that's fine on the discussion. It was just
Okay.
the
Any-
big lever moving.
Any
from-
other discussion on any other items with the harbor? Okay, so I have a motion, I have a second, let's do roll call. Michelle?
Aye.
Scott? Aye.
Rich, aye.
And
Aye.
And I'm an aye, 6-0. Okay. Facilities maintenance, they're looking for $1,653,000. They're looking for $168,000 for the community center generator. They're looking for $485,000 for the community center roof replacement and $1 million to do the engineering for the DPW facilities and mechanical workshop. Can I get a motion?
I have a question first.
Okay.
In the detail, in the write-up, can it say that this $1 million was for engineering and the replacement is the next year?
it's design and engineering, right? That $1 million?
Yeah,
So do you want it on there as 2 lines, maybe?
okay with me. I'm just saying, that's a big,
We've done that.
you know, we're questioning 425 for boat. You know, I see $1 million and I'm not getting anything out of it except if that is allocated to engineering and design, maybe it deserves, well,
Maybe just the description, Rich, design and engineering.
Yeah, yeah, it's up to you guys, I just,
Yeah, I can see what I can fit on the line. If not, I could break it up into two lines.
no, you don't have to, if you could just put design.
Yeah, I just want to, but design is only for 1 year, where the next
Right.
column over is construction, so I'm going
Yeah.
to see if I can get both in there, right?
Yeah.
Design, then construction.
Yeah, if not,
Yeah, I can take out and put a slash. I'll see if I can fit it in.
Thank you.
We'll do it one way or the other.
Martha can explain it at town meeting.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So now can I get a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to accept $1,653,000 for facilities maintenance.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Paul?
I guess my only question is this seems sort of abnormal that we would put in 1 year to design something that we are planning to do in a future year, as opposed to putting the whole thing as one cost. Does it become more alarming to the public that,
Actually, it's better. This is the way it should be done, right? So what ends up often happening
be, but it-
is when you go to town meeting and you say, gee, I'd like $12 million to build a building, and they're like, well, what does it look like, and what's your cost estimate based on? Whereas you do the design and engineering first, so you have you have renderings, you have some schematics, you have a good construction estimate, so that when you present that to town meeting to say, we would like to borrow $11,200,000 to build this building, you actually have the data and the information to back it up. Now,
What if the engineering said, hey, the lot you want to put it on is not good, or something
There's-
We
like that?
did it at the harbor.
Well, there's an immediacy for the $1 million to get the design. That 11.2 could go in 28 or 29.
Yeah, you would
But
lock
if
up
we-
the funding for the
Yeah.
the million, because you have to fund the whole thing in the fiscal year, so you don't want to have to raise debt for 12.2 million.
and a
or
chance that
even-
you might,
Right.
build it.
Yeah, it makes the funding,
And then you know what you're asking for, right? They could do the design and engineering and say, oh, we think we can do it for 10 million, right? So now 11.2 goes to 10 million, and so you have a better refined cost. So when you ask to borrow money, you're borrowing the correct amount, based on all the information from design and
and
engineering.
that is
But there-
consistent with the practice that we've done for every construction.
it is that, that's my
Yeah.
question. Because I don't remember, I mean, and we've got 2 or 3 big buildings coming up, right? The water department has that, the golf department, and are they being treated the same way?
Yes.
Where
So-
they putting a large chunk the year prior to?
So if you look at Harbor, we just did this with Harbor, right? And we made a change to the original plan, so if you look at the Allen Harbor Boat Ramp repairs, we're doing the engineering and permitting in '28. And then the next one down is looking to do the construction, in '31. So again, that was broken out for that same
And
type
this
of,
year, the water department broke out one of their projects with the wells,
same
right?
thing, yeah,
You know, the cost increased, but they also broke out where they had lumped it all together before,
correct.
so.
So you get better visibility on the
I think,
overall.
just for consistency, we want all the departments to kind of do that, because the engineering is what
Yeah, that's all,
really.
was the consistency aspect
Yeah,
of it.
I've seen town meetings where,
Might not have been as consistent in the past, Paul, so I'll
Okay.
give
Right.
you that, but we're trying to be more consistent going forward.
yeah, I've seen important projects get people thrown out of town meeting because they try to ask for a whole bunch of money and they don't have their act together, in terms of the actual cost.
Okay, Michelle, yes.
Yeah, just a comment on that. I like it because it also gives people perspective on how much design fees are running these days. Which $1 million is a lot of money, so people get a feel for, okay, we're paying architects a lot of money. I have a general question, not specific to this vote, but the $1 million is being funded by excluded debt, and can someone just inform me or educate me how we decide whether or not it's going under general debt versus excluded debt?
Well, again, we could put it in either, I think just because of the amount of it, and we're already borrowing some additional funds with excluded debt. So again, that debt service has to come out of the operating budget if we do a general borrowing. So there's a little bit of finessing as we look at the operating budget, making sure that we can balance, because again, those, the excluded debt, as we know, goes on top, right? General borrowing. Now, those can change as we get more fidelity, right, in terms of how the operating budget, we can continue to make adjustments, but just my view of the operating budget right now and not having the school budget yet, there's still a lot of unknowns, right? We won't have health insurance for a while. I mean, actual numbers, we're using,
You have all the unions negotiated yet either.
we do not, right? So there's a lot of moving parts in there. So some of it is just intuition at this point, but can always be adjusted if we find that we have the ability to move things around.
Thank you.
That's part of that balancing act.
It is.
Okay, so we're ready for a vote? Michelle?
Aye.
Scott? Scott's an aye.
Rich, aye.
Ann, aye.
Aye.
6-0, I'm an aye. Okay. We have nothing for information technology, as we discussed earlier. Their sort of burn rate has been slower than maybe we thought, and so they're taking a break this year. They may add things on in the future years as they need. We have nothing for the library in fiscal '27, nothing for the golf department in fiscal '27. We have nothing for conservation and Department of Natural Resources and Harbor. That stormwater project is fiscal '28, so nothing in '27. We have the planning department that would like to redo the town zoning map for $100,000 in fiscal '27. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion that we fund $100,000 for the planning department to do new zoning maps.
Ann? Second. Any discussion?
Discussion.
I have, oh, go ahead.
You have something?
I do.
Okay.
She want us?
No, I think she
Oh.
was ready to vote.
I hate to be a fly in the ointment here or whatever, but
Going to be.
this particular cost bothers me. We have an individual on the staff who's a planner, our community planner, town planner. We're talking about redoing. Now, I've spent not a career, but a considerable amount of time in zoning matters and administration zoning and so forth. The redoing of a zoning map has some technicalities, I admit, but it's not like it's a rocket science. And to me, it could be a task assigned to the community town planner if the zoning map needs to be updated from time to time because we're making changes in the definition of districts, physical location of districts by changing reference. I'm talking about geographic, not nomenclature. That's what we have a planner on the staff for. And if it takes a little extra time, maybe it takes a little extra time. But $100,000 to bring in some person who's just going to redo something on that basically is already in place, and it's probably fine-tuning. I
it's
just
more
kind of question the whole process.
Yeah, I think if you remember when Christine came in, so it is.
See, I missed her.
Oh, you did? Yeah, no, it's a lot more technical. It's actual physical survey work, GIS work, right? We do not have that core capability to do that. It's not simply taking the map and reshading areas. It's gonna take an actual licensed surveyor to go out to actually get the boundary information. That's where we're having problems in the planning board and other regulatory boards that are getting projects is the current zoning maps are outdated, and it takes a very technical view of ensuring that the boundary zones are drawn and articulated on those maps correctly. That's not a sit at your desk on a computer. It's an actual licensed surveyor doing that work. So we don't have that core capability.
Well, with all due respect, I don't want to challenge your response, but when a district is established, it's defined by street bounds. And the zoning map doesn't need to articulate an engineering analysis. It just simply needs to reflect what the language in the district is defining. And that to me is more administrative than technological.
Can I respond?
Of course. Well, I'm not the chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, of course. So let me give you two specific things that happened to applicants related to not doing the zoning map. We had a church that wanted to sell a parcel of their land, right, and divide it, right? And they went through probably 4 months where it was unclear where they were, whether the Six Pond area was impacted or not, okay? That cost a lot of money to that applicant. We didn't have the time to figure out where it was or not. The update has created lots of conflicts and almost holes. We had a hearing last night where we have a development between 2 zoning areas, right, that overlap. This is now happening more and more, so the clarity in the zoning map and the bylaws and how it all gets together, I don't think has been touched, I think it's been from since 2004.
It's been a long time, I don't know
Right.
the actual
So
date,
then,
but.
so in actual application, when people come to the planning board and say, I wanna do this, it's not clear and well done, and it's hazy. One thing will contradict another. The zoning board asked us to, step in and help this as well. So it has real application, time, money, for people trying to do things within the town.
And the areas that seem to be the most controversial, Paul, are the ones that overlap,
Yeah.
right? Where the zones, they're overlapping zones, and then you get in the, which zone is it, right? So this would clarify that, and then we can just move on. It may be helpful to watch that section of our meeting that,
Is the problem then the fact that we don't have a town, if we had a town surveyor, a town engineer, would that change the conversation?
It might, but we don't have one, and I don't anticipate us having one.
and this is
Um,
a one and done kind of a thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, do you need a surveyor if you're just doing, I don't know, could you keep a surveyor busy 100% of the time?
Well, we have a position for it, but
More than
those,
$100,000.
Yeah.
no, it is. I mean, we have a position for a town engineer and a town surveyor, both of which we have been unable to find anyone. Even in the private sector right now, if you try to get a survey of your property, I mean, anybody that's doing sewer, right? I had to do it when I had an engineered plan. I mean, they had to get a surveyor from
Teaching that
from
over at
Wareham.
school.
Yeah, so yes, we have a position, but it's not something that we're gonna find it's been out there forever. Those people are just not available, not with the private sector work that's going on. We just can't compete with that. But again, it is a very technical thing to update the zoning maps. It's not administrative, in whole.
And the volume of cases that are now coming through planning has stepped up considerably. So for the
Yeah, there's no
planner-
time available for
Yeah,
that.
for the planner to have this as a side job is
Okay, so I wanna keep this
Okay.
moving, because we're
Okay.
gonna lose Scott at
Okay.
some point here. So I got a motion, I got a second, can we go to a vote?
Sure.
And Paul, if you're not comfortable with it, again, vote against it, that's
Yeah.
fine. Michelle,
Just to be honorary, I don't want to end
No, you're
planning.
I'm gonna vote nay.
okay, Michelle's a no. Any reason, Michelle, that you wanna share? Oh, I'm not allowed to ask.
I also did not come, maybe it's just that I don't understand it sufficiently, but it didn't seem compelling enough
Okay,
for me. Maybe somebody ran into an issue, but is it happening all the time, or, so I wasn't, it didn't seem a necessary expense.
okay. Scott? Scott's an aye. Rich is an aye.
And
Paul,
I'll
you're
vote with Michelle.
you're a no, okay. And I'm an
Hope I
aye.
never have to go before the planning
So,
department.
that was a 4-2 vote.
They won't hold it against you.
Okay, let's move on to
Oh.
water, wastewater. We got a mark on your name.
Yeah,
Right.
we got it now.
they're looking for $1,610,000 in fiscal year '27. They are gonna do, and again, this is one that is the engineering, 1.1 million. So maybe we can
Use
note that.
Design and engineering.
And then the construction gets done in fiscal year '29. They're looking for $410,000 to replace a dump truck, $100,000 to replace a compact truck loader. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we accept $1,610,000 for the wastewater department.
Second. Any discussion? Michelle?
Aye.
Scott? Aye.
Rich, aye.
And I.
Paul, aye.
And Martha's an aye, so that's 6-0. Okay, so we've got, with the exception of the zoning map, it was unanimous on fiscal year '27. So now I'm going to move to the rest of the plan, which is fiscal year '28 through '31. I would like to do it as a total, except I didn't add the total.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
So as we voted for all of those requested line items, is it implicit that we're also approving the source of the funding for that line item?
So, let me ask this question, because I think technically we don't approve the funding. That really is Tony's call that gets approved by the board, but he shares it with us so that we can understand how it's being funded. If you have any particular items that are troublesome for funding, we can let Tony know, but I don't.
No, it was simply a
Yeah, I don't
general
believe
question.
we haven't voted on that historically, and it's really not our call how the town funds their capital. I'm just adding up so we can,
Are you gonna take out the 27 from the total?
Yeah, we need to back out the.
Back it out?
yeah, of course, I did it the hard way, I added everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's me. Let me just make sure I get the same number.
Take the road column and you've got 418.
Yeah.
1571.
53, 495, 500. Okay, so
53, 490.
can I get a motion to approve the capital plan for fiscal year '28 through fiscal year 31, sorry, in the amount of $53,495,500?
Which is, give us the budget number versus the complete. How did you get that number?
I added fiscal year '28, '29, '30, '31.
Okay.
And then I subtracted the total less fiscal year '27. I checked it both ways.
I'm just saying you should announce it, that's all.
Oh, okay, that's how I calculated it.
What's that?
The number is 53, 495, 500.
Yep, checks.
For fiscal year '28, '29, '30, '31, added together.
I make a motion
I
that we,
lost Scott at 12:06.
we still have a quote.
You still have a quorum?
I make a motion that we accept $53,495,500 to be the plan number for years 28, 29, 30, and 31.
Second.
Any discussion, is there any item within that 4-year period that anybody would have an issue with? Subject's gonna change next year anyway, so I don't know that we need to, spend a lot of time on it, but I would. Then I'll go to vote. Michelle?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Aye. Paul?
Aye.
And Martha's an aye. So for the total plan, it was a 5-0 vote,
That's right.
right?
Yes, because we don't have.
All right. With that, I think I need to fix the change sheet so it's ready to go with the changes that were made for this week. And I'll send that to you. And then we have, the next meeting is the 22nd at, is it 6:15 or 6:30, depends, right?
Depends what we have to do in exec session, but it's not gonna be any sooner than probably
Say
6:15.
6:15, if everybody could get there, and then we know we have a quorum, that'd be
Right.
helpful.
Yes.
I just want to make a comment. We've gone through this. All these numbers are subject to change until town meeting,
Correct.
and that we work and understand if there are any changes, in the past, we never knew of changes. Okay?
Yeah, my plan, based on, you know, what I develop with the board, is these numbers ought to be fixed by the time the warrant book is printed. I mean, it sounds like there's been a history of like changing stuff the night before town meeting. I mean, unless some, you know, dark cloud comes in over us after we printed the warrant book. My hope is that we get an affirmative vote of the select board on this with all the numbers and the funding sources, the finance committee, and we put it in the book, and so that's my hope anyway. I won't be here, but that's the hope of that. But certainly my past practice has been, if there's any recommended changes to what we already worked on, is we let you know about that so that it's not a surprise, and the rationale behind it. Now, sometimes select boards will refer things back. If questions come up or whatever, they may refer back to the capital committee and say, what's your input on, we'd like to change A, B, C, or D. How do you feel about that? Because remember, we all took the testimony and understand the background, right? They're gonna get the end product of all of our work. So my recommendation to them usually is, if they're gonna recommend a change, you know, refer it back to the capital committee to make sure whatever assumptions or thoughts they develop to change something, they understand the impacts of that based on us hearing the rationale and the reasoning, you know, behind that. But that's, you know, that's the select board's purview, but that's what I typically recommend, you know, them to do.
But my point, Tony, is between now and the town meeting, if something should come up by a department head,
Mm-hmm.
how does it'll affect this sheet if it's a negative or a positive number. In other words, if they don't need anything, or if they have revamped.
I find that,
Are
well,
we-
that's usually
Or
unusual.
is it closed off? In other words, accident or not, the number is set in concrete.
Okay, so if it's something, if a department had came to us in February and said, oh my God, I need, you know, X amount, but they better have a really good reason to open up a capital plan, especially if it's already, you know, passed through several wickets that it needs to pass through. I mean, something catastrophic would have needed to happen for me to even think about, you know, pushing that forward.
Okay.
Now, not to say something catastrophic couldn't happen, but it better be in that category, not, oh gee, I forgot about something, because we've had plenty of opportunity
But
to.
we've had opportunities that 1 hour before town meeting.
Yeah, I don't,
When this capital committee goes into session by
Mhm.
itself.
right.
Finance goes into session by itself, and the Board of Selectmen going by itself. And there have been times where a major change has happened an hour before town meeting.
Yeah, I don't, obviously, I'm not privy to the reasons for that. All I can say is in the towns that I've worked in and doing this many times, I've never had that happen. Hopefully, because we've done all this work, again, notwithstanding something catastrophic
Okay.
happened that we didn't see
And as
coming,
I've
so.
learned the hard way, you know, once it goes to the select board, it's their plan, they would have to, even though I
Just like the
fought to
budget.
get involved,
Yeah.
you know, they have to bring it back to us.
Yeah, that is true. And again, I think this particular select board is looking for more stability to not have that type of stuff happen. That's why we're spending hours and hours on the budget and looking at things, and, you know, I'll be presenting that on the 5th of January, which is months ahead probably from when they've used to get it. Again, so we can iron out any wrinkles. Now granted, there may be some unknown information still that needs some discussion, but I try to get it as firm as I possibly can prior to that date. So it'll be a little challenging this time because we have two holidays back to back, which shortens the time frame. Madam Chair, if I can, I did find the information on the replacement pumper, if you want me to talk about why that was added in.
Yeah, that would be great.
I didn't have my book with me, and Natasha was kind enough to bring it up, so. So essentially what happened is, they're looking to replace the 2014 Suffolk engine pumper. That pumper would then move to a reserve status. And the reason for that, and perhaps is a little bit of the definition. So NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association, recommends that apparatus over more than 15 years go into reserve status. And what the chief ended up taking a look at, and this is where a new set of eyes, is they're finding out, particularly post-COVID and stuff. I just read an article in the Boston paper about this. The length of time to build these pieces of equipment are approaching 4 years, right? So the chief decided, hey, we need to get out in front of this. And so they're asking for the money now, because it could be a 4-year build. And so if you added 4 years to when he's asking for the money, you'll see that that piece of apparatus is gonna be at the 15-year point where it needs to be
What was that
pushed.
group? What was that group, the
NFPA.
Oh, NFPA?
yeah, National Fire,
Yeah, Protection Association.
Okay.
So NFPA standards are what we do. A lot of things in the fire service are based on manning, all kinds of things, to include equipment. So, again,
Thank
that's
you.
where we see these type of changes, because we're doing what we should be doing, is thinking ahead, making good decisions, not feeling uncomfortable but bringing things forward. I never want to get said, oh, no, it's not in the plan, don't
And
tell me.
how many years is before they should go to
They,
reserve status?
basically, once they hit 15 years,
15
right? So
years.
for this, you're looking at 2029.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Just one question.
Yep.
As we go towards the December 22nd meeting, will everyone be receiving this for the first time? We've had that, our discussions get off.
Yeah, so the finance committee and the select board will get that, and we will, in advance of the meeting. And then it's our job, I'll present it and the changes, and Tony will, weigh in, up front, and then I'll just go through the changes so they understand and talk about what we reviewed and our site visits this year, and just give them an update. I'll count up how many meetings we had, and just so they get some sense of the work that's gone into this. I'll figure that out.
Right, because sometimes we get questions on the most random things
Yeah, and
at the meeting.
we do it here too, like we'll
Yeah.
get stalled on something that's not large, but I'm somebody who thinks everybody should have an opinion, and I wanna hear them, and so
Yeah,
I don't mind.
and from our office, I think, if I remember Natasha telling me correct, they're gonna actually get the whole thing. They're gonna get the backup, sheets, and I believe so. I believe now, I don't know if it's just electronic or.
Finance committee would definitely need that, like, and getting it this early, I don't think they've ever
No,
gotten
that
it
was
this early,
awesome.
because we didn't even get the backup in past years.
Yeah, even the budget books this year, I mean, they'll have all that information in there. They'll have the budget, the capital plan again, and
When is printing
printing for.
warrant?
The warrant?
I don't have my tracker in front of me, but that date is on there, because I know we have to lead turn that. My goal was always that I want everything locked down at a minimum 2 weeks before town meeting, right? So that all that information is public for the voters to be able to. My worst thing is I don't want somebody to show up at town meeting that didn't have an opportunity, which is that's on them, to show up informed, right? And so I try to have all that information. I typically do town administrator forums ahead of town meeting, where we go through the warrant, every article, and if there are sponsors for that, I ask them to come to answer questions or whatever, because the more informed voters we have at town meeting, the better result, right? And you don't get sort of out of left field. You'll still get some out of left field stuff, because as you would imagine, it's up to the voter to be informed, but we'll make sure that they can't say, well, you didn't tell me, or provide an opportunity for me to be informed. So if you look at that tracker, that's on the website, on the select board page for town meeting, you'll see my tracker, and down in that second page of that, you'll see some of the timelines leading up to town meeting. I think the printing of the warrant is listed in there when we need to do that.
On the select board tracker.
So I would just want to bring up, I do think we may have one change this year, which is the Harwich Elementary School boilers, because they need a decision from the select board on which direction they want to go. Do they want to go down the route of just replacing it with a fossil fuel boiler, or do they want to enter this program and?
Spend more money.
Pay more money, and there's.
Yeah, that invitation has been extended to them.
Okay.
To get them on, my guess would be probably the 22nd.
So they would be on that meeting?
Well, we've asked them, I don't know what their availability is, but they want to talk about that in the infamous tennis court
Well,
project.
I was gonna bring that one up. Let's just say nobody in Harwich is gonna say yes to that, but, I'm sure Scott would love to just let that go to the next person. But he may have to bring it up, and whether he wants to or not,
Yeah.
the select board will make that decision. I think the other discussion that needs to come up, it doesn't need to come up soon, is on the Alborough House. Before we get to that point, I think the select board does need to have a conversation about what the use of that building is gonna be before we put lots of money into it, and make sure it jives with how we're gonna use it.
Yeah, my plan right now, I mean, I would expect by the end of January, at least 2 of the 3 offices will be out of there.
Right.
And I'm working on the other one, so.
And are they all going over to the 204, or? Yeah. They're going to,
Two of the 3 right now, I still am working on the other one, but,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I do think there are things that could come up, but the only one I think that might affect this plan is the boilers, but it's in the out years, so that's awful to say it doesn't matter, but it's not gonna be, a huge impact. It would be adding on.
Well, the impact is, I think if they do boilers, they make them do the roof, and that's where the
Right.
money, yeah,
Right,
that's
but
the.
I thought the boilers were more like a FY 30.
They are, but it's gonna package that in, which is gonna be a big number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on what heat pumps and all that, and then they make you do the roof, and again, it comes down to, we may end up, if you go down that route, they force you into doing the roof perhaps before you needed to.
Well, and all the inside work as well.
Oh, there's a whole bunch, yeah, there's
Yeah,
a lot of
it's
stuff.
not just that.
It's a whole different,
And then what affects their budget with the electric, it's a cascade of things.
yeah.
I just wanna, check this off. We don't have any sewer phases or, anything for the,
Treatment on the west side of town.
I have no visibility in this 5 years. My thought is, again, as we work on trying to graphically show not just our current debt service for what is already hitting the tax bill, but we need to figure out how to overlay at least the authorizations to borrow that are sitting out there unborrowed. Because you can't negate that when you're looking at borrowing money for some. We're trying to figure out a best way to present to everyone what that potential looks like, so that we don't stumble into making a decision and go, oh gee, no, we didn't realize we had to borrow, So, part of that is looking to, get a better idea of what debt service is falling off and when. We know, I think it's 2031, the public safety building's paid off. When is the high school gonna be paid off? When is other debt gonna be paid off? And then, how do we, again, thinking strategically and looking at those dips as areas for, whether it's phase 4, I'm not 100, I gotta muff my brain cells on phase 3 and 3A to know when those other phases are potentially gonna hit, but again, this is just me talking, I don't speak for the select board or certainly the voters, but at some point, there's gonna be, in my opinion, some severe pushback against the people in Boston
Yeah.
about forcing the unrealistic timeframes on some of this, when we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, when we're trying to stay afloat on buildings and keeping our schools up to speed. There's no one really considering the cumulative effect of all this. It took us over 100 years to get to where we are today, and yet they want us to fix it in 25 years. It's just, yeah, they did.
Yeah, but
So
I
anyways.
just have to acknowledge, that there is no sewer on there, and I would
Correct.
just ask, I thought the consultants were doing an update to the plan,
The
is that?
CEDO MP is currently in update right now.
And when do you think that
I
gets?
don't know,
Okay,
I don't know.
Michelle first, 'cause she has her hand up. Michelle?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry, but I have to drop off.
Okay.
Thank you, Tony, and
Welcome.
thanks,
Michelle's
everybody.
leaving at 11:22. I'm sorry,
Yes.
12:22, sorry.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, Rich, your question?
Well, it's a question and a comment. This officially is our last meeting of the CFC. I don't know if we go into hiatus until next September, but
No, we're gonna do at least some site visits before then.
well, I was gonna recommend site visits and also these questions on sewerage and stuff that are being done. I mean, it's not too early to bring a department head in or whatever and talk about a major project, like how is the DPW building coming along or whatever. But I think we didn't do that last year. We've done it in years before to try to maintain that this is a yearly, I mean, this committee
Right.
is good for a year,
Yeah.
not for
Well, we
3
did
months.
start this year early, right? We did start with, I think we started in, no, we were like August, I think.
Yeah, my past practice, I guess, if you want to call it that, is capital is an all-year-round endeavor, whether it's just for me personally as the administrator, certainly for the capital committee, because you get a better product.
Yeah.
If we wake up one day in August and I'm like, oh, I send the email to the department head saying, okay, time to come in for capital, and it's due 3 weeks from now, and that's the first time the whole year that they've sat down and thought about, what will then be, 28 to 32, everybody's in a rush, and how much thought is being put in on it. So I typically, once everything's finalized, is we continue to talk about 28, 29, 30, 31. It's how's things looking? Does that still need to be there? Thinking about how much of the cost and what are we gonna allocate? And have those discussions and looking at what are the new items that are gonna show up in those out years? Or do we see sliding anything to the right due to what information, right? And so again, we get a better, I think, product by thinking about capital all year long.
Yeah, I don't wanna waste 8 or 9 months, and also, we've got 6 good members looking for a 7th, and it would be a waste, and especially if you're gonna have a replacement,
Mhm.
it'd be a good.
Yeah, I don't know what
think
their
we could set
view's gonna
something
be,
up
but.
To
Yeah.
meet at least once a month in the off-season, if you
Right.
will.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I don't want to lose Tony's very good idea about this inventory of buildings, because what we just approved in the 28 to 31, there are a lot of buildings with a lot of price tags on them. And so that whole idea about you have an inventory and we know what's coming when.
That would be you putting forward that to the.
Yeah, so I can,
don't know whether you have room in your
what I can
budget.
do, if you're interested, it's a big document, but I'm pretty sure I still have it in my files when I left Bourne. I can share with you what that report looks like and the
Yeah.
kind of information that's in it. And that may be something you discuss, going, hey, we looked at, what was done here, and, let's just say you found great value in it, to say, yeah, this is actually kind of what we need, and then we figure, okay, how do we, whether it's that company or a different company or whatever, comes in and does that, soup to nuts, capital inventory and condition index, and helping to establish priorities, and perhaps even building that really big, because you can take that and build that really big capital plan that could go out
Kinda like
20,
what we're trying to
could go out 25 years, right?
Well, it's that, we own a lot of these properties, they're all in different shapes.
Yeah, no, and I did ask that question
Right.
about which ones weren't on here that, we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, we tend to oftentimes wait till things fail and then go, gee, we need to,
That's where we are with this building. These windows, I feel bad for you guys sitting in those rooms freezing. It's awful.
So just not to lose that thought, because that was a great thought,
Sure.
because of all of the stuff coming down the pipe.
Do you have room in your budget for such a, or would it be a capital expense? Is it that expensive?
well, you'd have to do a procurement, again, I don't recall what that cost, because it was kind of in process when I got there. I'll see if I have any pricing information. I mean, it's dated, obviously, because I was done 4.5, 5 years ago.
It's not like then you're, this one needs windows all of a sudden. I mean, we've spent so much time on roofs and, generators and things like that. If you had a document.
Yeah, it would be in here. It would go in the capital.
It
I mean,
would
it's
go-
gonna be a number.
But the work to do it would also be in the capital plan.
Well, we would take, right, so we would take that
I mean,
information.
is that like a $1 million project to do something like that?
No. For them to develop that thing?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, it's not that much. But again, we would use the information that we get from that with the department heads, the facilities department or whatever, to take a look at that and determine which projects and where do we need to fit them in, right? Because I think we have an obligation to get the full useful life out of all of our infrastructure, and upkeep and maintenance is a big part of that. It's not all about replacement. right? It's all about making sure we get the full
Maintenance.
useful life out of the buildings, which,
Maintenance can save you from replacement.
correct. Or at least extend the life. So we look at everything from envelope to HVAC to other types of things you would look at, right?
It's such a great idea,
Solar.
I didn't want it to lose. Okay,
Solar maybe,
Solar.
yeah.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
second.
This won't affect getting our 2025 paycheck, so will it?
Oh, our work.
For our work here.
Yeah.
The
You
same
didn't
as
get
I had to
yours?
take that out of the budget. I don't know, how much were you getting paid? I might-
He's paying you to
Nobody
do it.
should stop
He's paying
down to
you to
your
do it.
office on
I
our
need
way
that
out.
money.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
good.
Great capital year.
20 seconds.
I have a question, Tony.
Yeah, 22nd, once we,